Alright guys, we're finally rounding out the series with Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, The Toy Maker. So the plot is pretty simple. After an elderly toy maker and his son make killer toys, they go after their target demographic, children. And honestly, this is a pretty good return to form. I think that it does the best job out of these last three in the series of actually taking it back to its Christmas roots. 4 kind of was a step in the right direction. It felt a little bit more Christmassy, but at the same time, the plot for 4 definitely could have existed without Christmas. You didn't need it, honestly, to continue the story. And same goes with 3. The story for 5 is intrinsically linked to Christmas, and it actually matters in the scale of the story. Funny enough, Mickey Rooney actually plays the elderly toy maker, despite the real guy being very against the original movie. Mickey Rooney's, he's a family guy. He was in the original Santa Claus puppet movie. He played Santa Claus. He is not this type of character, but he does such a good job as this just drunk toy maker that just is an absolute maniac. And you know, it's not entirely him. There's more depth to him, and what happens is not entirely his fault, but he still can be so maniacal at times, and it's really enjoyable to watch. So after 4, they pretty much just continue the anthology route. They ignore the first 3 movies, move on from the Ricky and Billy storyline, and just keep going on with just a completely separate, isolated story that has to do with Christmas, and it makes for a nice little addition in the series. It has pretty good effects, pretty good gore. It's definitely a lot more of a fun concept than the last 2 movies, and I think it sticks the landing on kind of the bizarre out there concept, whereas for 4 it was a double-edged sword. It wanted to be taken seriously, but then it also wanted to commit to the weirdness, so it doesn't entirely work, and what it's actually trying to do or say gets muddled. But with this one, the tone is very crystal clear, so it's not trying to be anything more than it is. It's just a very wacky addition, but it entertains and it's fun. And that's not to say that it's perfect. It definitely has weak characters, stilted acting, moments of cheapness, and Clint Howard makes another appearance in this series as Ricky once again, although, you know, he's obviously a different character, and I think it's just a reference to the previous movie, or just the movies in general. But it's still just the bizarreness of that, where it could be confusing to an audience, but it's fine with me, and I'm glad that it actually tries to make an effort to make Christmas an integral part of the story this time, unlike the last 2. The stuff with the toys and the presents actually make it seem like it is trying to be a part of it, and then it also just kind of has this strange, almost Pinocchio-esque take on the horror genre. I don't want to go too much into spoilers, but I think that it was a creative liberty that I think really works for the story in the movie, and the ending was pretty unexpected. I really didn't see what happened coming, but I also wasn't expecting much. I kind of just went into this like, oh, just, you know, ready for another round in the wheel, like another movie to kind of just slog through. But no, this was actually a pretty painless experience. I had some fun with it. It was enjoyable enough. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's the best of the franchise or anything. I wouldn't even say that it's a good movie, but I think for the right person, this definitely could make for a very entertaining watch around this time of season. It definitely has a lot more of the Christmas spirit, and like I mentioned, since Christmas is actually an integral part of the story, unlike 3 and 4, you get that feeling a lot more that you kind of want to get out of a Christmas horror movie. It's also fun that it actually feels like it kind of belongs in this franchise, even though it's an anthology bit. 4 really doesn't feel like it has any business being a part of the franchise, besides loose connections to Christmas, but this one actually feels like it does belong in the franchise, and it takes the Killer Santa thing, brings it back in an interesting and different way. So I really appreciated that they did bring that back, because at the core of this series is the Killer Santa thing, the Killer Santa bit, and it lost that in 3 and 4. So although they do bring it back, it doesn't by any means feel repetitive. It's brought back in a completely different way, in this maniac toy maker that creates and designs toys that kill kids. Bonkers. Just a crazy concept, but it works so well for this movie. Definitely not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination. It is a very entertaining movie, and if you're a fan of this franchise, I think that there's a lot to like about it. Even though it moves on from the original's plot and story, it kind of comes into its own in an interesting and different way. Now I'm finally done with this franchise. I'm going to be moving on to the ranking. I'm going to have the playlist right there for my reviews for the rest of the series. Let me know what you guys think of Silent Night, Deadly Night 5. I'll see you in the ranking.